Hi, this is Ted. Today I'm going to be talking about Kim Clement. The reason being is one of you asked me to talk about him, do a little research about him. And I do, whenever you suggest stuff, especially with people that I'm not familiar with, I dig in a little bit and see if it's somebody that would be helpful or somebody that I'd be interested in digging into. In this particular case, even though I knew a little about him, I didn't know a lot. It felt like this would be well worth digging into because I believe he is very big within the charismatic movement as people look back at his quote-unquote prophecies and say that they are all so accurate. Well, this particular look it's a good study because it demonstrates some of the issues we have with this whole prophetic movement. So let's get into it. Kim Clement, the whole message that he presents, first of all, is something that it deals with territorial spirits. What are territorial spirits? They are, according to the charismatic movement, they've taken Scripture a little bit to a different direction than Scripture really intended to go, or really suggested. And I'll talk about territorial spirits another time. But over the nations and over things such as Hollywood and over the different categories of the world, are powers, spiritual powers, demonic spiritual powers that have a hold on them. And we need to pray through these, bring them down so that we can find victory in bringing other people to become Christians just like us. Okay, that's pretty much the territorial spirit in a nutshell.
I may be praying in California and releasing something in the heavens that gets released in Russia or in Syria or in Israel. I may never know about it. Daniel didn't know the extent and the consequence of his spiritual prayer life until the angel came there and said, for 21 days I have been battling the demon, the prince of Persia. Now you've got to listen to this, because even though we are under new covenant, we think, well, Jesus took care of all that. Yes, he did for you. But he still says fight the good fight of faith. He speaks about spiritual warfare, that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Something that is in the heavenlies, something that is over this nation right now.
Clement's message is that because these are territorial spirits, and he's going to base this on Daniel 10, which in Daniel 10, Daniel is praying and fasting for 21 days. And in his fasting, he, by the way, is fasting all pleasant foods, so he's only eating vegetables. I always like that one. So he's eating vegetables for 21 days, praying and seeking God. And after 21 days, an angel comes to him, an archangel, and says to him, Daniel, your prayer was heard from the very first day, but the angel says, I've been fighting with the prince of Persia. And then he presents to him a revelation. All right, so based upon this, they like to use this verse a lot because it really is saying that his prayer is helping this angel break through the power, the bad power in the heavenly places. And therefore, and this is what Kim Clement is digging into. He's trying to tell you that your prayers matter because, like Daniel, you need to pray through. And he's going to suggest you can't find the solution for our country, the United States of America, through Joe Biden.
He speaks about spiritual warfare, that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Something that is in the heavenlies, something that is over this nation right now, has to be pulled down, and it cannot be pulled down by Joe Biden. It cannot be pulled down by the President of the United States. It cannot be pulled down by politicians. It can only be pulled down by the spiritual leaders that have set their heart towards the kingdom. Not towards failure, but towards the kingdom, and said, now we will pray, and whatever spiritual stronghold is over our nation, it will come to an end. I am one of those voices, just one.
Why does he mention Joe Biden? Well, next he's going to mention the president. He's going to mention, which was Obama at that time, and he's going to mention politicians, And that includes Trump, of course. It includes the Republican Party. So what he's saying, it's not through politicians that we can save this country, but through prayer and breaking through these principalities and powers, these territorial spirits. When we can break through those, then we can save the country. Now, the second thing is about Joe Biden. He is one of the politicians, but why does he mention him in particular first of all? Well, on that, he is a vice president at the time. Why does he mention the vice president before the president? I don't know for certain, but it is possible because slightly before then, a few months before then, Joe Biden got flack because he was supporting the LGBT community and publicly doing so. And because of that, that would have been seen as something very terrible in the minds of many, many Christians. So I believe that could be the reason why Joe Biden was mentioned first. Now that is something that's important because it's context. If you don't see the context, if you don't know that he was vice president at the time, you're going to say, why is he saying Joe Biden? It must be our day and age. No, it's not. And what the people are doing is, first of all, not seeing the context. Number two, they are doing something that is called using the spin. And that is taking modern day events and shoving them into some prophetic word or something else not even intended to be prophetic. There is a group of people who look to The Simpsons to find prophetic fulfillment of today.
Did this episode of The Simpsons from 19 years ago predict the future? It shows the entrance to 20th Century Fox movie studios. Now check out the fine print, a division of Walt Disney Company. It's not the first time The Simpsons has had a crystal ball. Back in the year 2000, it predicted the election of Donald Trump.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
And 5 years before Lady Gaga suspended from the roof at the Super Bowl halftime show, Gaga on The Simpsons performed for Springfield residents. The Simpsons also predicted the Apple Watch way back in 1995, 20 years before it was introduced. There's more. Tiger trainers based on Siegfried and Roy were mauled on stage. 10 years later, it happened in real life.
They have found some very interesting stuff, including, actually dozens of shows have supposed prophetic things that happen. Killer hornets, way before the killer hornets came into the United States. President Trump as the president. That was said back in 2000. And the flu, the pandemic, was predicted in 1993. An Asian source gets into the United States, into Springfield, and as people are getting the flu all over the place, their doctor, Dr. Hibbert, tries to warn them and tell them how to get out of it, but they don't listen to him. Do we see parallels with today? Oh, this must be predictive. This must be prophecy. And there are people who will talk about it. I think they do out of fun because it's just fun to see that kind of stuff.
Please don't tell the supervisor I have the flu.
I've been working with a shattered pelvis for 3 weeks.
Oh, my juice loosener's never gonna come.
Hey, Dad, this came for you in the mail.
Mother, get an extra special hug ready. I bought you a new juicer. Good Lord. Flu germs entering every orifice in my head.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
What the?
The dreaded Osaka flu has hit Springfield with over 300 cases now reported.
But there are a lot of different prophecies like this in The Simpsons. Does that mean that God is speaking to us through The Simpsons? No. It just means that you're going to find stuff. In fact, a couple of the writers for The Simpsons discussed this. One basically believed you're going to get 10%. If you predict anything, you're going to get 10% of those right. The spin will look at those 10% and really make that big and focus on that 10%. They'll tend to neglect and ignore the 90% that didn't happen. That's the spin. Another of the writers suggests he doesn't think they do any prophecy at all, or any kind of prediction rather, at all. What he thinks is going on is history repeats itself. So we'll deal with this show talking about some historical event, and it's going to happen again because it's historical and history repeats itself. Either way, it's just interesting because what's happening is we have modern day people taking modern day events and shoving it in to the Simpsons show's back episodes, and they find some fascinating and interesting stuff. And you can do that with a lot of things, and people are now doing that. They're on that wave. They're taking over with the spin and reading into Kim Clement a whole lot. And in this particular case, they are definitely reading in to what Kim Clement said. And you all have a good day.